Okay, hello. So I'm parked right near like where my office parking lot is like right next to a park. So like if you hear kids screaming, that's why. But I've been hesitant to make this video. Hence why it's been my the ghost of my car is going off right now. Hence why it's been delayed about a month. Am I gonna turn off my car? like So I don't know if I've ever told this on video, but my car has like a ghost in it that just like pushes random like things on the touchscreen. But anyway, I put making this video off for like a month or so. I've just been I don't know. I feel like I'm asking for trouble, if that makes sense. Because I know that I am in the not vast. I'm in the non-vocal minority, I guess you could say, about my opinions on the Stranger Things series finale and season 5 as a whole. Sorry. Yeah, it's like cold today, and it like shifted my allergies into like overload to where I'm like sniffling, nose running, coughing like all day. Like not feeling sick. It's just like ugh. But maybe not the best time to be recording a video. But anyway, the common consensus here is that this finale was ass, and I am on not at all on that wavelength, I guess. So for context, I decided to record this because I just conducted my rewatch of season 5 all the way through one sitting, seeing it as a cohesive package. So I originally watched the finale with some friends, and one one of my friends, Zach, if you watch the channel, had never seen the show at all. He'd never seen the show at all, but like just from watching the finale without seeing any other episodes, he could like tell it was like a solid finale. So he was like sort of on my side. But then my other two friends, Alberto and Jen, who you've probably also seen if you watch the channel, they both did not like it. So even right there in the room, without hearing any like online discourse or consensus, there was a 50-50 like split right there. As the month progressed, it became very clear that like the minority was the people who liked it. People were saying that it was a disaster, it was terrible. Some people were saying it was fine. I'm actually higher than fine, though. I feel personally that this was a very good finale and overall very good final season. Don't get me wrong, it had issues, but I was waiting for my rewatch to sort of like affirm my feelings, and it did. It honestly tipped it even further into me liking it. I was worried while rewatching it that I was like, okay, I'm gonna see the flaws and it's gonna be like shit, and I'm gonna understand that take now. I don't. I adamantly don't. I think sorry, my mouth was like super dry. I think that an issue that is happening here that I've noticed is people conflating not being happy with what happens to characters with bad writing. And I think that's a dangerous conflation to have in fiction. I think a lot of people are very upset with what happened to 11. I'm upset with what happened to 11. A lot of people are very upset with the like conclusions for a lot of the characters. I might disagree on that, but that's another subject. I think there's a dangerous, and I've seen this happen in a lot of media. This isn't just Stranger Things, but I think there's a dangerous conflation when people start deciding that something is bad because they don't like what happened to the characters. My favorite story of all time, Gurren Lagann. Spoilers. Am I devastated and incredibly upset that Nia dies in the end? 1,000%. Like it was one of the most crushing fictional deaths I've ever seen. Does that make the show bad? Not in any sense. If anything, that boosts the narrative immensely. So I think that's a key issue here. I also think there's an issue here of, and I didn't mean this for this to me to be like speculating on other people's takes, but I also think there's an issue here of expectation versus reality. I think with how big the hiatus was between season 4 or 5, people developed theories, ships, headcanons that essentially became absorbed as canon. And when those things didn't play out in that way during the season, I think people were upset, saying it's bad. And this also kind of ties into why I think I particularly still very much enjoy House of the Dragon as well. There are definite deviations from the source material, but in House of the Dragon, but I think these deviations are all good. Not all of them, but like for the most part, good decisions. And I think it's sort of similar in that context, fans are expecting the story to go a specific certain way with no deviations, and then because the deviations happen, they deem it bad. And I think in this situation, it's less so canon deviations to fanon deviations. I think it's that, fans are really expecting something to happen, or certain ships to come to fruition, certain character arcs to conclude in certain ways. And then when they don't, they refuse to engage with the idea that these new deviating threads from their self-imposed canon are, like, they refuse to engage with the possibility that they're judgment of their quality in any way. They just immediately deem them bad because it's not what they wanted. And I don't know, that's a little frustrating to me. Because, honestly, to circle back, I thought this was a great finale. And, like, for a long-running TV show, like, good finales for a long-running series are so fucking rare. And maybe I'm a little run down. Maybe I'm a little run down from Game of Thrones. Like, I think, like, Game of Thrones, the final few episodes were so disgustingly awful and a betrayal of the entire viewership that this to me is like fucking Kino, Like, I don't know. So I guess rather than just talking about fans and like other people's reactions, I'm going to talk about my thoughts now and talk about like what I loved about it. I'm specifically going to try to focus on the finale because I've shared my thoughts on the first 2 blocks of the season already. I have a video for episodes 1 through 4 and a video for episodes 5 through 7. You can go watch those if you'd like to hear a little bit more about my takes there. But for the finale specifically, I thought that it was really, like, in my opinion, and this is something that a lot of people like will disagree with, but in my opinion, it felt like the natural, logical conclusion for every character and their arcs and their struggles throughout the series. I felt that, let's get, I've been sort of beating around the bush. Let's get the owl stuff out of the way. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get that off the plate here because, that's going to be my most controversial take. And I've already had people coming at me with pitchforks about this take. I thought that was good. I know. I think that this is a character that has had no agency her entire life. She has been abused, tortured, experimented on, forced to do certain things by the government. And then when she's freed from the government, all of her protective situations are also other people that are enforcing their will on her. While it's good, while it shifts from bad intentions to good intentions and love and support, it's other people that are shifting their expectations on her, whether it be Mike, whether it be Hopper, whether it be Joyce. You know, she's never had an opportunity to fully enact her own agency. And I think through finding her sister this season and through the connection she makes with her and realizing what's going on, she finally sees this as an opportunity to engage with her own agency. And it is an end of things. And that is really fucking sad and tragic for the character. That's what I want to get at. This is such like a tragic, broken character. And that's the character that was written. The character that was written is an incredibly tragic, broken character that ultimately makes, I don't want to say the wrong decision, it's the decision that she feels is right, and ultimately it ends up being a good decision on a technical level. But I think the thing is that, you know, it goes back to what I was saying before. There's a difference between bad writing and a character doing something or ending in a certain way that you don't like. You can see beyond Elle's decision. You can see that it's a wrong decision. You can have that opinion and take. It's sort of almost like it's like an inverse Last of Us ending, you know? And that's another thing. Everyone lauds the ending of Last of Us 1. And that's a very similar, it's the complete opposite of the decision, but that's a very similar decision, you know? Similar on scale, you know? So I just think that this is a broken, rundown character that finally gets a chance at agency and takes that agency to save the people she cares about. You don't you don't have to, you can think that's a fucked up thing that happened and still it be good. Like good writing, you know? I think that's where my sticking point is. So I personally really, you know, it was crushing. It was really fucked up and it was really sad, but it was good. Like, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so let's move on to the other characters because I'm running low on time here. I've decided to record this on my lunch break. I thought that the end to, you know, for me particularly, the older generation of characters, so Steve, Robin, Nancy, and Jonathan, they're the ones I really connect with more, maybe because it's like I'm closer to, like when I started watching the show, I was closer to age to them, and now I'm like older than them, you know? But it's like, it's that, I have a really strong connection with those characters in that generation. And God, that rooftop scene where they're just like, you know, reconnecting on the rooftop after the graduation ceremony, and they're just talking about where their lives are at and how they want to maintain connected, and when they hit that wall of their like, we can't really ever move on because of our shared trauma, and that like we're the only one, like we're the only ones that can understand each other. We're the only ones from this sort of lost generation, because like when we were supposed to leave and moved on with our lives is when everything hit the fan and we were stuck here, you know? So it's now they're trying to sort of pick up the pieces and figure out what they want out of life late, you know? Figuring out like what they want. They didn't have the opportunity to figure out what they want when they were supposed to, you know? And just the reunion, like the union of that shared trauma, when they all start to cry in that moment, and then they all like hit that wall and realize that, God, that fucking broke me. God, that was so fucking good. Holy shit. Well, I'm tearing up just talking about it right now. That was beautiful. And let's talk about the absolute best part of this episode and the finale as a whole. Nancy's fucking epilogue haircut. Holy shit. Like, I lost my mind. It was so good. I was like, oh. So, God. Anyway. Oh my God, that's got to be the thumbnail, right? That's got to be the thumbnail. If it's not the thumbnail, fucking kill me. But moving on to the kid characters. Well, they're not kids anymore. They're graduating high school. Loved how, like, Mike is handled with the Frodo he's given the Frodo thing where he can't move on, you know? So he sort of lives, you know, it's implied that he lives the rest of his life still coping, trying to cope with what's going on by recounting the stories, writing them down, being the scribe, you know, sharing them. And, you know, and his, like, you know, and that goes back to the elf thing, the story that he shares. My interpretation, it's left up to viewer interpretation whether that happened or not. It could have. My interpretation from that scene is that she's dead, and this is a story that these characters can hold on to when they think about her, and sort of, and it's also almost metaphorical, if you will, because if she's, like, in heaven, you know, then if you choose to believe that, then, like, she is in a better place, you know, and she is happy now. And I think that that's a beautiful thing that these characters can hold on to, you know, and it's not is she actually alive kind of thing. I don't think that was the intention there. That's at least my take. I think that she's definitively dead. But, sorry, one sec. Yeah, I love the graduation scene. That was great. I'm mainly talking about the epilogue here, but the whole final sequence with Vecna was awesome. I like the subversion that the Mind Flayer is a separate entity and that he's in a symbiotic relationship with Vecna. I like that shift, you know, where, because we always thought that the Mind Flayer was just like a manifestation of Vecna. And then now that shift that they're two separate entities that are sort of intertwined. I really liked that because it sets up the parallel between Vecna and Will a lot stronger too. It's where Will is something that was touched by this supernatural entity trying to do bad. Essentially dealt with the same exact shit and came out good and decided to fight for good. And Vecna was touched by that and decided to use it to pursue evil. And I'm fucking such a sucker for parallels like that. It's so good. Yeah, but I loved that, you know, I didn't mind it. I thought the final battle was good. There was some, like, plot holes, like how they scaled an entire mountain to do their trick at the end. That made no sense, but whatever. It was kind of a rule of cool type sequence anyway. Cough, cough, Gurren, cough, cough. But, I loved that Joyce was the one to do the finishing blow against Vecna. After everything that Vecna has done to her family, after what he's done, traumatized her sons, taken over their lives, sort of fucked them completely, that she was the one to do that. And when it's showcasing how Vecna, as she's finishing the final blows, how Vecna impacted each of these characters' lives as they're watching her do it. God, chef's kiss. My thing is, though, I think the military were an incredibly forced presence in the season. I think there is a way this season could have been written, and this finality could have been written, that writes out the military. I think that they are forced to be there. There's this new character that's literally just fucking Cordovan from RWBY, and she bothers the hell out of me, I think, because I cannot make that separation. Cordovan's, like, my least... pretty much emblematic to me of everything wrong with later RWBY. So like to have that connection was pretty just funny to me. But I think the military could have been written out. I think they were sort of forced in there to create conflict. I don't think any of the military characters are interesting or have really strong motivations. I think that they should have been wiped from the season. That they're there isn't a huge deal breaker for me. It's just, to me, they could have been cut. I don't think they were necessary. I think they were a product of an earlier draft to try to create conflict, and I don't think that extra conflict was needed. I think we added more than enough conflict with the supernatural fight here. That's just my take. But yeah, I guess to conclude here, like, I'm gonna say it all over again. I really loved this finale. I thought it was a very solid finale and overall capped off Stranger Things to me as a really great show that I'm going to remember fondly and cherish, you know? A show that I'll probably show my kids one day, you know, when they're growing up, probably in their, like, early teens, you know? I feel like this would be a really good thing for them to watch. God, fucking, before before I go, the fucking line, that fucking baiting line where it's like where Will and Mike are talking on while they're climbing up the tower, and it's like fucking that was just fucking bait. That was like pure cruelty from the writers. They were just like pure trolling. There's like friends, no way, best friends. And with that, I bid you goodbye.